Hey guys, really quick before I get started. What you can see right now are all the anime I watched since I started m.i.a. I've watched most anime with English subtitles simply because I value anime over Japanese. However, I watched a good handful of anime raw, which are linked in the description together with the rating of how difficult I think they were. Links to everything else will be in the description as well. So depending on who you ask, I started learning Japanese at one of 3 times. Either on the 18th of February, because that's when I started m.i.a. and getting serious about Japanese. In the beginning of January, because that's when I started learning basic Japanese, which consisted of learning kana and basic vocab. Or 2013ish, because that's the first time I was exposed to Japanese and started my anime career, if you want to call it that. I personally would say I started learning Japanese in January of this year, even if I didn't do that much in that month, besides learning kana and maybe 100 to 200 really basic words like numbers, weekdays, basic verbs and so on. I'll try to go over this chronologically. There are also timestamps in the description if you want to skip some parts. Starting off in 2013 when I started watching anime. So I got into anime because horny 15 to 16-year-old me got clickbaited by a YouTube thumbnail of a show called High School of the Dead. I really liked it at that time and went on to watch other shows like Elfenlied, School Days, m.i.a, Death Note and so on. Fast forward to 2015ish where I started to learn Korean. I've always enjoyed languages and English class was easily my favorite in school. So the reason why I started learning Korean was because back then I wanted to become a League of Legends pro player. I had really bad internet from 2013 to 2018ish, where I could pretty much only play at night when I changed the Wi-Fi password. So basically I could only play for around a week per month when I stayed at a friend's house. I was relatively high ranked, but without being able to really play the game I was wondering what else I could do. At the time a lot of Western teams would import Korean players because they were seen as by far the best. So I figured if I knew Korean, maybe it would increase my chances of getting picked up, since most Korean players didn't know English. I was also really into K-pop at that time. But learning Korean didn't work out too well. I lost my passion for the game and thus my biggest reason to continue studying Korean. It was still super useful in my opinion, because I didn't have to learn a lot of Japanese grammar, especially something like particles, since Korean and Japanese particles are super similar. I was also able to skip a lot of Chinese origin words, because of how similar they are, like Shigan and Jikan for example. I'm gonna skip over 2018 where I first dabbled into Japanese, but didn't even get through hiragana, so I don't really count that. Now we've arrived at January 2020. At this time I had around 90 to 95 days of anime watched according to my anime list, so I had a pretty good foundation to start learning. I was pretty bored and thought to myself, well, I'm most likely going to consume anime for the rest of my life, so why not learn some Japanese? I will dabble a little bit into it and stop once I'm bored. I expected to stop a few weeks in, but hey, I'm still here 7 months later enjoying the process. So all I did in January in terms of Japanese was to grind memorize. I learned kana through memorize, internalized them with playing Pokemon, and then learned all the basic stuff you would learn pretty much everywhere in the beginning, like numbers, weekdays, verbs like give, go and so on. Then I stumbled upon Learn Japanese from Zero on YouTube and watched around 50 to 80 of his videos. Time skipping to mid-February. Because I watched so many of Learn Japanese from Zero's videos, Matt vs Japan's videos started to get recommended to me. I don't quite remember which one the first video I watched was, but I was instantly captivated. I'm not really trying to brag, but I was easily the best at English in my grade, probably even the entire school. Simply because I was pretty much the only one who watched YouTube or live streams in English, played games in English and later on watched anime with English subtitles and so on. My vocabulary was a lot bigger than that of my classmates and I had internalized grammar so much that studying it felt really obsolete. So as soon as I completed the first video of Matt, I knew from my own experience that I could trust what he says and that it definitely works. I tried to apply the same method with Japanese as I did with English. Learn the basics in a classroom setting, learn Japanese from Zero's videos in this case, and acquire and internalize stuff through immersion with some study like Anki. So going over my m.i.a progress now. Throughout all of m.i.a my main immersion came from anime. I will go over the other stuff I did later. On the 18th of February I started m.i.a with RRTK and completed it on the 2nd of April. I then started sentence mining with subs to SRS stacks and Mothman because, well, I'm lazy. On the 25th of April I stopped reviewing the deck and deleted it. I probably should have done it a few months longer because I don't really remember anything about it now. It just felt like a chore and I didn't want it to make me burn out on learning Japanese, so I figured it's best to just delete it. On the 5th of June I started reading light novels, which is by far the best way to learn Japanese in my opinion. Basically what I do is I look up every word I don't know, which is really fast and easy with the Typhon app or with Yumi-chan if I ever wanted to read on my PC. One downside to the Typhon app that may annoy some people is that it makes the text horizontal instead of vertical, but I don't mind that at all. So sometimes words get repeated a lot in a chapter and I just pick them up that way without the need to Anki them. But most of the times I just copy I+1 sentences into a notepad, and then at the end of my reading session, which is usually between 20 and 30 minutes long, I copy everything from the notepad to Discord, where I then add them to Anki one by one. I don't know if looking up every word I'm not confident with is the most efficient way to learn, because I might end up being too reliant on the dictionary, but so far it has worked really well. Unfortunately, I really don't enjoy reading, so I kinda have to force myself to, which isn't a good feeling, but the benefits I get after a reading session are usually worth it. If I read for, let's say, an hour on one day, Anki becomes a lot easier and faster over the next few days. And I usually pick up around 2 to 3 words per reading session, and I'm able to make around 5 to 15 sentence cards. So on the 30th of July I finished my first light novel volume after around 22 hours. If you enjoy reading light novels or books in general, I think you have a really massive advantage over anyone else. It's easily the most effective way, besides maybe visual novels if they have voice acting, but I have no experience with those, so I can't say for sure. On the other hand, I don't feel like I pick up words at all when watching anime raw. It's more about reinforcing words I know, or make me understand them better by seeing them in different contexts. Since I started m.i.a, I've watched around 27 days or 650 hours worth of anime. And the only word I consciously know I picked up through anime is oka. When watching anime I don't really have any problem hearing and understanding stuff, even if it's more complex words or words I just learned. I hear them and instantly understand them without having to think, which is really nice, especially because I watch anime sped up at between 1.2 and 1.5 times speed. So I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, let's talk about the other stuff I immerse with really quick. So I play this game called Anime Music Quiz a lot, where you have to guess anime songs from audio. I get a lot of listening in this way, and so far I have heard around 120,000 songs, which isn't really accurate, because I didn't start counting from the beginning, so it's probably around a third more. It's somewhere around 980 hours if you want to know the time I spent on it since June of 2018. I definitely recommend you to check this game out if you're into anime. It's really fun and has an awesome community. So for manga I've only read 23 chapters of Yotsubato and around 4 chapters of Tomodachi Otsukuro. As for live action, I tried getting into Terrace House, but I didn't enjoy it that much. I watched 4 episodes of Boys and Girls Next Door, but the editing and the entire feel of the show just wasn't for me. I also played some games in Japanese, like Pokemon Leaf Green in the beginning, and recently I started playing some Pokemon Ultra Sun, mainly as katakana practice as I still struggle with that. And lastly we have YouTube. Again, I didn't watch that much of it. I watched around 20 episodes of this guy's 7 Days Today and Arc Let's Plays, which I really enjoyed. Around 15 to 20 episodes of Fishers where they go through obstacle courses and so on. And around 5 to 10 episodes of Asuka's Mario Maker videos. Links to all of these are in the description. I've also recorded my immersion time of anime and light novels per day if you want to check that out. It's also in the description. Here are my Anki stats if you are interested in them. My memory is really bad, which my retention rate pretty much reflects. Here are all the anime I use to sentence mine, and I've added some cards myself, mainly from light novels. Usually I learn about 10 to 15 new cards per day, depending on how motivated I am. Sometimes up to 20, but that's really rare. So far I haven't missed a single day and I've never gotten below 10 new cards per day. One good thing is that I already know a lot of words from all the anime I watched before starting to learn Japanese. So I really only have to learn the kanji for a lot of words, which speeds up things a lot. So yeah, that should pretty much wrap everything up. I don't have any plans for outputting yet, and I'll hopefully increase the amount of time I read light novels. I will also start the monolingual transition today, because I think 6 months, especially with the head start I had, might have been enough time. If it's still too hard after a few weeks, I might stop the monolingual transition and try it again in a few months. Let's see. Maybe I'll make another update video on the 9 or 12 month mark, but I'm not too sure yet. Thanks so much for watching and have a nice day.